Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about color modes and channels. So here I have a simple image of a man in front of a blank sky. The simpler your image or the more negative space you have, the better your end results will be for this particular project. So I'm going to go up to the image and then mode menu option over here at the top in Photoshop. And here I can see that there's lots of different what we call color modes that I have options to select. All digital images are made up of combinations of colors. If you take a real life image, aka an image that you've taken with a camera, it's created with combinations of the colors red, green, and blue. And that's why you can see with this particular image, when I went to image and then mode, it already has RGB checked. If I go to the channels panel in Photoshop, I can see that I have my red, my green, and my blue channel on. And what I can do here is I can select certain different channels. So right now I only am seeing my green and blue channel. This is just the blue channel. Those are the parts that are darker are the blues. And you can see different combinations of different colors depending on what you would like. When you print something, it doesn't use red, green, and blue. Red, green, and blue is an additive color mode, aka that means those three colors combine together to create white, or white light in real life. When you print something, it doesn't use red, green, and blue. If you've ever purchased ink before for a printer or even changed ink on a printer, you would know that. Instead, printers use combinations of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I've gone back up here to the image and then mode menu option, and I can see that I have an option for a color mode that is CMYK. That does stand for cyan, magenta, yellow, and then K stands for key, which in most cases is black. What I'm going to do on this particular image is I'm going to switch it from RGB, which is from cameras, to CMYK, which is for printers. And you notice that when I do that, it asks me, it's telling me it's going to change it to a different profile. I'm going to click OK. And now under my channels, I can see that I have a cyan channel, a magenta channel, a yellow channel, and a black channel. I'm going to turn them all back on so we can see this image in its entirety. So that's color modes. Color modes are how different things, such as printers or cameras, use to create colors. There's also what we call a color space. If I go to the edit and then convert to profile option here I can see all of my different color spaces, and there's a much longer list of different color spaces that we have here. And these are kind of just the things that you're choosing to view an image through. It might be a newspaper, it might be a certain type of monitor. The default color space for the internet is what we call sRGB, which is why whenever I export an image, so if on this one, if I said file export as, the little dialog box that normally pops up, which let me drag mine over here. At the bottom of it under color space, it has convert to sRGB, which is the default color space for the internet. And you normally want to check that box. Because if you don't, there's a possibility that you might see the wrong colors when you export it. So like you might see one certain set of colors when you're viewing it in Photoshop, but if you exported it in a different color space that wasn't sRGB and then viewed your image on the internet, it would look a little bit different. Anyway, what we're going to do right now is something different. So I am going to open this image. I'm going to make sure that my color mode is set to CMYK. And what I want to do is I want to duplicate this layer 4 times. I can do that one of 2 ways, or one of 3 actually. I can right click the layer and say duplicate layer. I can also just hit Control J, or I can come up to the layer menu and I can say layer, duplicate layer, and I get the same option there. Control J is by far the easiest way. So I've got a total of 5 layers here now. I'm going to leave my background the way it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click each layer, and I'm going to go all the way up to the top where it says Blending Options. That'll bring up this little dialog box. Let me pull mine over. And in this layer style dialog box, I have an option here for channels. What I want to do is I'm going to uncheck everything but the cyan channel on this top one. When I do that, I can also come over here and just rename this layer. To rename a layer, double-click the words, and then you can type in whatever you would like. There's lots of ways you can do that with that you can kind of identify layers. I'm also going to right click this one and give it a little color. So let's give this one a blue tint. This one, we're going to right click it, say blending options, and this one we will leave the magenta channel on. I'm going to rename it magenta. And let's see if we can give it kind of a purplish cast. This one, right-click, blending options, and we will leave the yellows. We will now rename it yellows. So this process of renaming and giving little color coordinations on it, it's not completely necessary. I'm just doing this to show you other things you can do in Photoshop. And then this last one, I'm going to right-click it and say blending options. We will leave the K or the key channel. You can think of it as the K in the end of the word black. And we will rename it black. And let's give it a gray highlight there. And we will leave the background channel as it is. So this image looks totally normal. It looks exactly how it did originally. But if I now go and select one of these channels, I'm sorry, one of these layers, notice that I am in my layers panel now. I'm going to go to my move tool. And when I move this is the one that has the cyans on it. If I move it over, you can start to see that I'm only moving away the cyans from that image. So now if I go to the magentas, move them over, you can see that it starts to look a little bit different. Now I can finally go to the yellows, move them over too. Oh, it did not like me doing that. Photoshop's running a little bit slow today. That's okay. I'm going to select the yellows, move them over as well. And you get different color combinations depending on how they overlap. You can notice when I move the yellow and overlap it with the blue, we get a green. And I'm just going to kind of move these around until I'm happy with how they are. Now, if you get it to where it's not allowing you to select the image that you want, make sure that your auto select your options bar over here is deselected. And finally, let's go back to the magenta one, move it over so they're just close enough. If I were happy with this, I'd probably crop out that part at the end. I'm going to use my crop tool, crop out the parts of the image that I no longer need. And then I can save this. Let's save this real quick. So I'm going to say File, Export, Export As. And remember, the end result for this would probably be the internet. So I'm going to make sure that the color space has the Convert to sRGB box checked. I'm also going to check the Embed Color Profile to make sure that my color management is done correctly in this particular image and that what I see for this image, everybody else is going to see as well. And I want them to know that I did it. So under the metadata section, I'm going to check copyright and contact info so they'll know that this picture particularly came from me. So now when I hit export, I can save this image and it's mine and it's good to go. So that's a little bit about color modes, color spaces, and channels in Adobe Photoshop.